Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Modernist Guide. And this time we're going to do something a little different. So, different angle, be more casual, because I'm going to be reading my notes like crazy. But this is the first episode of Metal Mayhem, where I'm going to take a bunch of metal records that have come out this year and just speed through them, 30 seconds to a minute, maybe 2 minutes, and just rate it real quick and talk about it as fast as possible, just blurbs. Trying to catch up since I decided to do this whole video format review thing at the end of the year and still kind of just have as much as my opinion as possible out there. So I'm just gonna burn through it. I think it's like 13 records this time, and then hopefully it'll probably be this like part 1 and maybe probably 4 or 5 parts. But hopefully, if I keep doing this for a full year next time and just keep going, I won't have to do this too many times, except for records that I can't keep up with because I'm doing too many. So I have to do a monthly roundup of multiple genres, not just metal. I'm also going to do a pop album or just a more recognizable genre of music later. That's going to have about 15, maybe 20 records on it throughout the year. But without further ado, let's just get straight through it and burn a hole. Up first is Gojira, Fortitude. Just get kind of the big one out of the way. These guys took a long time, and a lot of people weren't super into their previous record from 2016, Magma. I was one of them. It sounded okay. It didn't sound like that a lot of the songs were thought through or that they were complete. They softened up and were experimenting, trying to find a new sound, and I think here on Fortitude they finally do. It's much more of a like trying to attempt world music with hard, sludgy, growly, scratchy metal and production, and I think for the most part it works. It's been a couple months since I've listened to the record, and so I checked it out again before writing out some notes for it, and I ended up liking it a lot more. So for now, I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10. I think they saved themselves a lot, and they're trying to be more creative while still being heavy, and that's honestly something that a lot of people don't appreciate. It's weird, but it's true. I would check out Born for One Thing or Amazonia, or to hear just how creative they're trying to be and what they're trying to get across. Maybe the chant or the title track is just a really interesting and fun interlude that leads into the song The Chant. And I think Hold On is kind of better than I remember as well, but I actually think you can't go wrong this time. One of the more recent surprises is actually Kin by Whitechapel. I was really shocked. I liked this record a lot, but Whitechapel has changed their sound a lot. This is like their 5th or 6th record. They've been around for about 15 years at least, and they've gotten away from what is used to be called deathcore, and it's not like super popular anymore, and it's just always been clunky and abrasive in the wrong way that didn't appeal to a lot of people, both while it almost went mainstream and didn't, and more traditional death metal fans always hated the sound anyways, and there was just more catchy and I guess easier and acceptable sounds in the metalcore, which was like, its cousin. But all in all, they add clean vocals. This may be the first record they do so, and they kind of sound like Tool. This is, I would say, quite simply, it's Tool meets Lamb of God. It's kind of more intricate. It's paced out well. It's really good. I enjoyed most of it for sure. I would check out Lost Boy, Bloodsoaked Symphony, Orphan, and the title track just to get an idea of how versatile they are with this new concept while still sounding very cohesive. And I'm going to give it a 7.75 out of 10. It's almost great, and it's almost like near effortless, but there's some where they can't like hide their old ordeals, and it shows, and that's fine. They've massively improved, and that's all that really matters. We have a band bursting into the scene. 3rd record, I think, maybe 2nd, Fronterier with their record Oxidized. And this one's kind of a tough one for me. It's not bad in parts, but it's also just noise. It's less than metal and more just noise, which is a genre. Noise rock, noise metal, I don't know. It's loud, it's abrasive, and that's cool. And I've heard plenty of that kind of shit before. I'm not 100% sure what's supposed to make these guys special other than they have layered a bunch of blistering sirens that are specifically used to like bother people or alert people. Not for they weren't designed. These noises were not designed to layer on top of more like crashing, banging, destructive sounds and call it like unique music, I guess. I have a hard time with it. It needs to be more creative and spaced out, and there's really only two songs that do that. And absolutely, if you can pick at random any song to hear what they sound like beyond these two, but the two songs where there shows a lot of creative genius, and I hope they try that way more, is Swan with two V's. It's SVVAN. That's the real good one. It really is. That's the creative one, and it's not just blaring, incomparable, blistering nonsense. And the other one being Day Dark. It's just more paced and spaced out. It's not as creative as Swans, but it's good. It's the better of all of that on here. And you know, if you like a record where it's just banging your head against the wall, fine. But I want what Converge and Every Time I Die and Dillinger Escape Plan have clearly shown is capable of this style. And there's a band called Misery Signals that I think you get the same thing out of, except no dumb, pointless siren noises that don't fit. So it's a 5.5 out of 10 just because it is good metalcore, but it gets tiring and uninteresting after a while, and it doesn't hold enough. It's not that unique. It's just, oh, yeah, nice, kind of interesting. Starset is a weird band. They're like alt metal. They kind of just sound like Breaking Benjamin, but with electronic elements put in, you know, synths and stuff, but it's so uninspired and uninteresting. And I really like mixing electronic music and metal, but these guys are like, everyone's worried about like a Halo movie getting made and how like loud and big it's gonna look in scope, but still seem uninteresting maybe. And that's what it feels like. This feels like if the Halo movie was music, and that's just, I don't know. It just seems like a bad idea. These songs don't seem like they go anywhere or do much, and this is like their fourth record, and they're supposed to be like all concept albums and stuff, and I don't get it. But they get noticed every time, so people enjoy them, and I figure I'd just keep trying until something clicks, and nothing has, and they're still just boring. There's too many fucking songs on this record. It's like 16 or something. It's bloated, it's boring, it's a slow moving cruise ship through space that has nothing interesting on board. I'll give it a 4 out of 10 just to be nice, but I don't know what I'm supposed to get out of this other than the bland side of all the things I like in metal and electronic music. On the other end, if you really want some good alternative metal, check out Tremonti. He was the guitarist for Creed, which I know that seems like a red flag for people, but he was the best part of Creed, the worst part being the vocals. And if you want Creed but good, then you check out Alter Bridge because their singer is better. And they've gotten heavier and heavier over the past few years, and Tremonti is just the unsung workhorse of hard rock and alt metal right now. Since like 2008, he has put out like 4 records with Alter Bridge and 4 or 5 records under his own name, Tremonti. He's put out like 12 records in 15 years, and they're all this kind of consistent. I just love and appreciate the simplicity while it's still being really heavy and fast paced. It's not blistering as much as it's just good thudding metal. And if you like any kind of like stadium rock and you're just like, I wish this was a bit heavier, then this is the guy who's going to give it to you. I would check out songs like A World Away, Down Forever. Bleak, I think, is one of the best ones on there. Let That Be Us and Would You Kill. There's different combinations of just soaring and straightforward stadium stuff and just hard hitting good vibes metal, and I like that. I just do. I'd give it a 7.25 out of 10. It's slightly better than a flat above average record, but this is also maybe one of his more restrained at a full length LP, and that's fine because you should just check out. You can probably pull 4 songs from every record, and I think that's pretty good playlist to have for a guy who literally puts out a record every year and a half. I don't know what to say about the new Iron Maiden record. I really don't. Senjutsu just seems like a bunch of old dudes who can still play and still go, and it's really impressive because they're all pushing their mid 60s, and that's lovely and that's fine. And if you like old school metal, and if you love Iron Maiden, then you're mostly going to get what you want out of this record, I think, unless you think that 6 8 minute songs is just too much over and over. It's like an hour and a half, 2 hours. It's a big record. These guys can still go. It's just they haven't changed what they've done since like 2000 with my personal favorite, Brave New World. So it's a 5 out of 10 just to like commemorate the guys, and every record they put out will not be a bad record. It's just, it's Iron Maiden, and it's been Iron Maiden for going on almost 40 years, maybe a little more, and that's cool. But it's just, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Gonna bring up Unseen World by BAND-MAID. I'm gonna try to talk about at least one Japanese metal band every video for Metal Mayhem, because Japanese metal is one of my favorite ideas, I guess. I don't want to call it a genre because they're all different in their own way, but you can also kind of put them in a box a little bit. I studied some Japanese, but I don't know what they're saying. And that negated lyricism, but keeping the vocals and just hearing the flow can really just do or end for you. It's either you'll make or break it, really. But if you know how anime openings sound and you just like really fast paced, really fun loving, quick, slightly heavier than your usual super fast rock music, then this is great. And it just goes and goes. It's Energizer Bunny shit. I think they're all women and the vocals are fun. It's just one of those records where you just enjoy the ride. It's nonstop, and nonstop rides are great. You can hit about anything, but I really liked Afterlife, Manners, HTK, Chemical Reaction, and Black Hole's a pretty good ender, I think. All in all, a 7 out of 10. They're just that kind of band. I don't know how to put it. It's like, don't put it down just because it's in a foreign language, for sure. And just listen to how it just keeps going and going. It's like, workout music or whatever, just for you to enjoy the day while you're playing video games or something like that. It's an activity kind of music, I think, but it's fun. I want to talk more about Bob Vylan, We Live Here. They're just two black British dudes, as far as I can tell, super political, as close to Rage Against the Machine as I've ever heard, except, a lot of people would be more familiar with Fever 333 in America, but I just don't think they work, and I think they try as hard as they can, and the lead singer of Fever 333 is on this record on Pulled Pork, and that's cool, and so they share the same mindset, and that's awesome. And I want to talk more about this record, but it feels more almost like just kind of a sample of where they're going. Songs are a little too short, but they are aggressive as hell. If you check out one song besides Pulled Pork is actually pretty good and maybe the best that the singer of Fever 333 has ever sounded. So maybe these guys just know how to use his voice more. But the one song I would say is You Want Your Country Back. Listen to that song specifically more than anything else. You Want Your Country Back is what will, I think, a style that will catapult them more and more, because it's very British Rage Against the Machine, but we kind of need that, and they do a damn good job. So for now, I'm going to give it about a 6 out of 10. It just needs a little more work as far as like holding my attention because it's so short. But what they put down is worth listening to the full record for sure. Ultrapop by The Armed is just tortured indie pop rock songs mangled up and put through the shitty production grinder. And that sounds like a bad thing, but after picking it back up to just double check and listening to it on speaker instead of in earbuds or headphones, it's much better that way. I think it's consumed that way better. I bet they're amazing live. So this is a record worth checking out. If you've ever thought for like 5 seconds, like, man, what do the Shins or Of Montreal or the Strokes sound like when a hardcore punk band is beating the ever-living hell out of them with distorted guitars and violent drums and just screaming their head off? And so some of these songs start off like an indie rock song, but then they changed rapidly. So I almost thought about putting this in the pop video to try to get people to like test themselves. But either way, it's a test. These people are trying to figure out a new genre for sure. But you can pick any one of these to figure out what they're really about before going into the full record if you're not super sure. The production is iffy, whether you can enjoy it or handle it or give two shits about. But after my like third attempt at it, I was like starting to really get into it, especially these songs specifically. A Life So Wonderful, An Iteration, Average Death, Where a Man Knows Want, and Bad Selection. I'm going to give it a 6.5 for now. It's got a lot of potential. I think their next record is going to just be even more refined, and I hope it doesn't lose any of their edge. It could, but I like the fusion idea. It's just sometimes badly executed or not executed enough for me to care. But it's still, if you want something weird and challenging, that's one of the records to go for. Next we have Hail to the Sun, New Age Filth. These guys like were founded in like 2008, 2009, and they sound like it. They have not given up on that hot topic emo hardcore punk metal fusion sound like, Pierce the Veil or stuff like that. But it's kind of really good, or I like missed this way too much because I enjoyed it. But it reminds me of like a more screamy emo version of Coheed and Cambria with those kind of vocals, and also just straight up hot topic prog metal Mars Volta. And that's super weird. But yeah, if you ever wanted to hear what like Mars Volta and My Chemical Romance and Pierce the Veil sounded like together, just listen to like the first two songs, and if none of that clicks with you, you're not going to enjoy it. 7.25, 7.5. It's close. I was just surprised I enjoyed it so much. It may be hot garbage for a lot of people, but in the now of coming back to it, and when I first heard it, I can't stop kind of being addicted to it. Alien or Angel by Born of Osiris. These guys are just veterans at this point. They know what they want to make, and they're making it pretty well. And they, while are adapting enough, they still sound like kind of where they started. They were kind of a deathcore band, and now they kind of sound like really good beat 'em up mid 2000s In Flames or The Fall of Ideals by All That Remains. They remind me a lot of the Sempiternal record by Bring Me to the Horizon, but done way better, because I actually wasn't super into that record as a lot of people were, and how a lot of people kind of wish Bring Me to the Horizon went back to that style. Well, then here you go, because this is pretty much like that, and I like it a lot. And I wouldn't call them Too Little Too Late, because I think overall, while this is kind of a big record, it's like 14, 15 songs, it's good. It's one of those like, yeah, metal kind of records for me. It's what I'd put on to just like remind myself of what like casual but really good beat 'em up metal is for. It's good scream vocals, fun cleans that are kind of random, so I like that, unpredictable cleans and that aren't there all the time to make it formulaic. I think these guys are so comfortable with what they're doing, and I like straightforward metal bands that are comfortable with what they're doing, even if it's not challenging anything other than the sound that they've been working on for over 10 years. I will give it a 6.75 just because it is a bit much, but it's a good record. And if you like any kind of late 2000s, just straightforward grrr metal, then you'll like this for sure. I think the best songs to check out to see just what the whole record is about, so it's easier since it is so many songs, is the title track, Angel or Alien, Oathbreaker, Love Story, or the final track is a little different, but I think really enjoyable, Shadow Mourn. Next we have At the Gates, Nightmare of Being, and I don't know what to make of this record. Every song averages about 4 to 5 minutes, and it takes like a minute to start up. Every single song is an intro, and that really hampers this because it's good and it's got very gothic undertones, and that's a really cool thing to see in melodic death metal, especially veterans of this age and the era that they're from. They're trying to keep traditional melodic death metal alive, and for the most part they do, and they even do some interesting stuff like saxophone on Garden of Cyrus. That's cool, I guess. I mean, it is, but again, it just takes so long for each song to start, and it doesn't feel necessary, so that really messes with how I feel about the overall record and the rating, which I'm gonna give it a 5.75 because it sounds good and the high parts are great, but it just takes too long. Which is ironic because the last record I'm going to talk about is a doom semi-sludge metal band, King Woman with Celestial Blues. I really like this record, but I think tonally it just is way better, way more interesting. They take their time telling this amazing story, and I'm not super big in doom metal, which is deliberately slow and loud and murky and just sounds like you are listening to the band in a cave where water is just dripping slowly, and it's supposed to be this deep brooding descent into madness or occultism, and that's what it is, and it's really cool. And usually, you know, most doom metal sounds kind of samey to me, but I think just with these female vocals, King Woman is proving something new, and just it has a slightly different atmosphere that I'm more interested in. I think her vocals make it more interesting and alluring, but the drumming's really hypnotic. I don't think there's a lot of good hypnotic drums in doom metal a lot, but this definitely is there for sure. And the guitar is really luring, and it's pretty straightforward until Coil. Then Coil just beats the shit out of you, and that's really cool. And the rest of the record is fine and really enjoyable. I haven't enjoyed a band similar to this in a long time since early Kyleza with their Shadow Spiral album in 2010. It's been that long. And so I enjoy this. Maybe not as much as that record, but it's up there. I'd say 7.5 out of 10 easy. And again, check out Coil, but really, I think for this kind of experience, pick like the first 2 or 3 songs, then go to Coil. And then the last song's pretty good too. All right, and that's it for this version, this part. All right, and that's it for this part of Metal Mayhem. I hope to get part 2 out very soon, hopefully within a week of each other, if not sooner. And hope you find something that you decide to skip that you want. I know a lot of these were kind of the middle ground, and so we'll definitely get to more records that I liked next time, I think. So hope you enjoyed it and found something new to listen to. Thank you. Like, share, subscribe if you want. Thanks for listening.